Hello everybody. Just wanted to come on and show you guys how to do our last type of transformations, which is our rotations. Just as a reminder, I'm sure your substitute today probably told you about this, but in case they didn't mention it, just to reiterate, we are going to be having our next quiz on this unit on Monday. When we come back, it'll be that combined quiz like I talked about in class yesterday, and it's going to be on all three types of transformations. So the rotations that we're doing today will be on that quiz on Monday. So hopefully this video will be helpful to get you started. After I go through the information here, I'll let you go ahead and get working on the rest of that packet. If you have other questions, concerns, things like that as you get ready for that quiz, just feel free to send me an email. I'll check my email this weekend and try to get back to you as quick as I can while you're studying over stuff. And remember, we usually have a few minutes of time before our quiz that you'll be able to look over your notes and ask some questions then. So just make sure you're prepared for that. To get started with, we're just going to talk over what are the rules for doing these three types of rotations. When we do rotations, it's really important that we use the rules because rotations are the hardest transformation to do visually. And so when we do rotations, using the rule is going to be the easiest way for us to make sure that we do our rotations correctly. So I'm going to talk through what are the rules. We're going to make notes of them right here for all three of the rules that we'll use for our different types of rotations, and then we'll show an example of two of the types here as I go through them. So our hardest of the rotations are the 90-degree ones. We have a 90-degree clockwise and a 90-degree counterclockwise. So what this does, the 90-degree clockwise rotates to the right 90 degrees. The counterclockwise rotates to the left 90 degrees. So it just goes a quarter of the way around the graph, either to the right or to the left. The reason that these are the hardest is because what happens is we get this rule where our x and our y flip places, kind of like when we did our reflecting over that y equals x line yesterday. But the thing is that this time when we do our rotations and we write our rules, this time only one of the signs change when we do these. So when we reflected over y equals x, we didn't have any sign changes. We just flipped the y and the x locations. And when we reflected over y equals negative x, we flipped both signs. So our rotation 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise only changes one of the signs, which makes them a little bit harder because we only have one of them and we have to remember which one we're supposed to be changing the sign on. So when we do clockwise, it's the old x coordinate that we change the sign. Counterclockwise, it's the old y coordinate that we change the sign. The final thing we're doing, rotating 180 degrees, this one's actually the easiest because all it is we're going to change the sign on both the x and the y, and we actually keep them in the same location. So this is the easiest because we don't have to do any of the flipping of the x and the y. All we do is just change the sign of both. And so that's going to be the easiest of the ones we're going to talk through. So those are our three rules that we have. Going through our examples, I'm going to go through numbers 1 and 2 on this, so we can do one of the 90-degree rotations and one of the 180-degree rotations. For our 90-degree rotation, this time we're going to do clockwise, and so remembering our rule that we have is that x, y for clockwise is going to turn into y negative x. And so when we do this rotation, we need to make sure that we list out all of our points. So we have S, R, T, Q. We're going to read all those points right off our graph. S being at negative 5, 4. R is at negative 4, 4. T is at negative 4, 1. And Q is at 1, 2. So those are our 4 points where they are located on our pre-image. Now when we translate those and we get our new prime points for our rotation, we need to apply our rule to it. This is why we are using our rules, because doing this rotation, once we plot it, you're going to see it's a little difficult to just be able to see how we just turn that figure. So the first thing that I'm going to do for this transformation is just switch my y and my x. So I'm going to put my 4 first, my -5 second. I'm not going to worry about changing any of the signs yet. I'm just going to start by flipping my x and my y first. That way I know that I have all of them in the right spot. So I'm going to start by just doing that step. Then the next thing I'm going to do is that sign flip. I know that what is now in this second spot is the thing that needs a sign flip. So anything that was negative, I'm going to turn those into positives now. So those first 3 all become positive numbers, and my point Q prime is going to become a -1. So after I've done that, I've just flipped my x and my y, and then I changed the signs on the new y values, the things in the second spot, which were the old x values before. Now I just need to plot those points. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 5 puts my s prime up here. R prime is at 4, 4, so that puts it right there, one below. So that's my R prime. T prime goes at 1, 4, which means T prime will be there. And Q prime is at 2, -1, which is down here. And then I connect my points together. So if you look, you can definitely see that what's happening here is that this shape is rotating to the right, which is what it means to go clockwise. This point Q that was kind of the tip of this is now driving downward. So we see that all of our points rotate to the right 90 degrees. Most of the shape was in this top left quadrant. Now most of the shape is in that top right quadrant. It moved 1 quadrant to the right. So when we do our 90-degree rotations, we use our rule, make sure that we flip those places and flip the correct signs. Doing a rotation counterclockwise works the same way, except you use the other rule, obviously, but we do the same steps. So that's our clockwise rotation. Our last one we're going to do is our 180-degree rotation, which this one's honestly the easiest one, because here our rule is xy becomes -x, -y. So each of these points, I'm just going to flip the sign on both of them when I do this transformation. So the math behind this is going to be pretty simple. So I'm going to take my points right off of my graph, I being at -4, 5, h being at -1, 5, and j being at -3, 0. Now applying my rule to get all of my prime points here, I don't have to worry about flipping any of my x's and y's like I did before, so that's going to make this really easy. All I have to do is flip my signs. So -4 becomes +4, +5 becomes -5. -1 becomes +1, -5, and j prime will be +3, and -0 is just 0. We don't flip our sign when it's 0. And there's my 3 new points. So, plotting my points, j prime goes there at 3, 0. H prime will be at 1, -5 down there. I prime will be at 4, -5. Or, oops, that's supposed to be an I. I prime. Connecting my 3 points now gets me my triangle like that. So rotating 180 degrees, we see since our whole shape was in that top left quadrant, halfway around the graph takes it to the bottom right quadrant, and so we definitely see that rotation halfway around. Also, the way that this works, because if you saw it this way, this also is the same thing as doing two reflections. This is a reflection over x and y axis at the same time, because if you notice, our rule here is actually a combination of both of the rules for reflecting over x and y axes. So if you like to think of it that way, that might be a way for you to be able to do this rotation visually by taking every point and reflecting it over the x-axis and then reflecting it over the y-axis. And if you were to do that with every point, you would get where those points should end up. So hopefully this video was helpful to get you started here on how to do our rotations. Feel free to pause it, take notes on this, or rewatch it if you need to. Again, make sure that you're ready for that quiz that's coming up on Monday. If you have questions, concerns, things that you have problems with, again, the answer key, like usual, is on my desk. It's also posted on Schoology for you to check if you do it later. And just send me an email if you need some extra help. Hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you on Monday for our quiz.